Punisher is one of my earliest Marvel characters I remember hearing about. Like I said in my Daredevil video, the Punisher is one of my dad's favorite characters, so I remember growing up and hearing a lot about him. And when I was a little bit older, I remember my dad showing me the 2004 Punisher movie, which I thought was absolutely amazing. But also, like, really sad. I thought the fight scenes were cool, and to this day, I remember the most iconic scene ever. And it's where the Punisher has this guy hanging upside down, and he's like, listen, when skin gets burned so bad, it feels ice cold. So he turns on a blowtorch, right? And he also has a popsicle in his hand. And when he turns on the blowtorch, he puts the popsicle up against the guy's skin, and the guy starts screaming because he thinks that his skin's burning off. Oh my. When I tell you this movie was peak, it was peak. But also, I haven't watched it in such a long time, so I actually need to rewatch it. But let me know if I'm the only one who remembers this movie or if this movie's trash or good, because honestly, it's been a long time since I've seen it, and honestly, I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it. So if you think it's good, if you think it's bad, just let me know, because I literally hear zero people talk about it. A huge part of that movie and of Frank Castle's character is his loss. Frank Castle had served in the military and returned home from war, and when he got back from home, he had his loving family by his side, and everything was going great. And one day they went to the park, and while they were at the park, they were in the middle of a shootout between a rival gang, and Frank and his family were right in the middle of it. So his whole family died, and Frank was the only one to survive the event. And he wanted revenge on the criminals. He wanted to punish the criminals that he felt often got away with their crimes, or would just get a slap on the wrist, go to jail for a night, and then get out the next day. He felt like the justice system had failed him, so he didn't want anybody else to get hurt, so he decided to go punish criminals himself. So he goes and he hunts down criminals who he deems deserves to be punished. And a lot of people know that about his character. A lot of people know that Frank Castle kills criminals, but there's some parts of the Punisher that I feel like people don't talk about too often. If you were to ask people what they like about the Punisher, most people would probably say that he kills criminals and that he doesn't really care about anything else, which is a huge part of Frank, but also is kind of wrong, and I kind of want to talk about that. But I also want to talk about how nobody really ever talks about how smart he is, and also the heavy grief side of Frank Castle. I feel like a lot of people are just misunderstanding who Frank is and what he does and who he goes after and his codes and his morals. So I want to talk about some of that today. The reason that he kills people is because he doesn't want these criminals to hurt anybody else who's innocent and these people who are just following the law and living their daily lives. He wants to protect as many people as he can, and he wants to make sure that criminals will never hurt anybody again. The way that Frank kills criminals isn't always, him just randomly running into somebody and just shooting them, or just running into an alley and just shooting criminals. That also does happen sometimes, but also he has a lot of very smart and calculated ideas on how to reach certain criminals and how to destroy certain criminal organizations. One of my favorite examples is when Frank purposely gets arrested so he can kill criminals in prison, but this very specific time is the short 2 issues called The Trial of Punisher. In these 2 issues, we see Frank walk into the New York PD, and he has a dead body, and he's like, listen, I just killed this guy, arrest me. So, of course, they arrest him. He gets an attorney, and the attorney's questioning why all of a sudden Frank turned himself in after killing massive amounts of criminals, and Frank's just like, and he won't tell the attorney why he's actually doing this, but he has one request, and is to keep the trial going on for a week longer. So that's what she does. She helps him out, and she keeps the trial going a week longer, but she knows that Frank's up to something. So she keeps the trial going for a week, and the last day of the trial, Frank escapes chains, and he runs to another courtroom where there's a criminal that he's been hunting down for a while. And the reason that he had to go to this trial was because he's under witness protection for ratting out other criminals. And so Frank shoots him and runs out of the courtroom, which I think is awesome, because it's like he went through all this effort just to get this one guy. Like, Frank's very calculated. And also another time that I really like, and I feel like people kind of talk about a little bit, is when there's this huge group of Spider-Man villains who are just kind of at a bar and they're drinking and having a good time, and they're just talking about Spider-Man, all this stuff like that, and then all of a sudden everybody starts falling, and they realize that the Punisher just poisoned all the criminals in the bar. I think this is just kind of like, it's a lot more than just Frank just running in and shooting a whole bunch of people. He isn't always like that. And the Punisher is just way smarter than I think people give him like credit for. Like everybody just assumes he's just kind of this dumb guy who just shoots people. But there's a lot of strategic stuff that the Punisher does, and he's a lot more calculated than people think. Also during the jury, this part is one of my favorite parts, is they have people come in who have had past experiences with the Punisher, and one of those interactions was Matt Murdock. Listen, come on. Did you seriously think I could go through a whole video without mentioning Daredevil? And especially a video where I talk about the Punisher and not bring up Daredevil? I mean, these guys are like the anti-dynamic. I don't know if that's actually a thing. It's probably not. But I bet you there's somebody in the comments like Grammar Hero 482, and he's telling me right now like, actually, a better word than anti-dynamic is etc. Which, by the way, thank you, because my vocabulary definitely needs to be fixed, because I I have the worst vocabulary. Anyways, these two are the perfect counters for each other in every way, and I absolutely love this dynamic. Matt is stealthy and he's very quiet, and he uses his senses and uses non-lethal attacks to take down his enemies, and doesn't kill because he doesn't believe that killing people is right, and he also believes in second chances. While Frank uses guns and rocket launchers as his main weapons, while believing that killing people is the only way for true change. And I just love how they clash every time they meet, and they're constantly trying to sway the other, to their side, and always telling the other that they're wrong. And one of my favorite examples is this one time where the Punisher thought that Matt killed somebody, and he was praising him, and he was like, finally, Red, you see it my way. You see that criminals deserve to die. And Matt was like, dude, no, you got it all wrong. I didn't kill that guy. This is especially one of my favorite interactions too, because this is also the time where Matt picks up two guns and is like, listen, Frank, if I wanted to kill people with guns, it would literally be easy mode for me. He's like, I'd make you look like a baby. It would be super easy for me to do, but I just don't believe in killing. And honestly, this is one of my favorite moments. I just love this scene and this panel. It's just so great. Although Matt and a lot of other heroes in the Marvel Universe see Frank as nothing more than a murderer, there is a soft side to Frank that people really don't bring up a lot. There are plenty of examples out there where we get to see the Punisher's soft side, which is always some of my favorite moments from him. For example, in the Netflix Punisher show, which I highly, highly recommend. This show was so good, and I honestly think it's one of the best Punisher things to come out in a while, and I just love the whole show. Anyways, I could talk about the show the whole time, but we gotta have to move on. In the second season, we get to see Punisher protect this young girl from a group of people trying to kill her, and the whole season is just full of these scenes where we get to see Frank be human. And at the end of the season, Frank gets her a ticket to her dream destination, gives her a bunch of money, and sets up her dream job, and just tells her to have a good life, and she hugs him. And when you see her hug him, it's just one of the most heartwarming things ever. And I feel like oftentimes people forget that Frank Castle is just a man, and more than a man, he was a father. Sure, we don't really get to see his fatherly side as much, when he's out killing criminals, but Frank is just a broken man who's hurting. Throughout Frank's stories, we realize that the Punisher isn't this monster who can kill anyone, and he isn't this monster who doesn't feel pain. We find out that Frank is a man who's just hurting, and feels like the only thing that he's good at is killing people. Frank isn't only punishing criminals, but he's also punishing himself. There are times where Frank can put down his guns and start his life over again, but he doesn't feel like he deserves it, because he feels like he let his wife down and his kids down, and he has too much sins on his back to deserve anything besides pain. So he purposely doesn't get close to anyone, and he doesn't allow himself to be happy. Frank is constantly punishing himself and is in so much pain. I feel like one of the main reasons I like the Punisher is because you can relate to the pain of loss and feeling stuck in a dark pit in your life. That feeling that you don't matter and you screwed up so bad that you don't deserve anything, and you decide to punish yourself forever just to make up for it. That isn't true. No one deserves to feel that pain, and you shouldn't allow yourself to punish yourself over and over again for mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to need help, and it's okay to move on from those mistakes. Don't let your mistakes decide your future and decide whether or not you deserve good things. You deserve good things. Behind all of the murder and the guns and the cool fight scenes, Frank is nothing more than a broken man trying to atone for his mistakes and punishing himself for his actions. And the fans of The Punisher watch him not only for the fight scenes, but also for the glimpses and where we get to see the Punisher become Frank Castle. The scenes where we get to see his good heart and when he protects people and he redeems himself. Those moments are what we really crave, because we know that Frank Castle deserves to be happy. And although his actions are bad and his choices may not always be good, we know that Frank Castle is a good man and is doing his best to fix the world. And that's why I like The Punisher. Because although he makes these mistakes, and although he punishes himself, and although he breaks the law all the time, he's just a broken man who's hurting and doesn't know how to fix it. And the only thing that he ever does is kill, because that's the only thing he's ever good at. And I know that he can change. And I know that he can become a better person. But unfortunately, he's a comic book character, and I don't think we'll ever get to see him truly change. But if you're a true Punisher fan, you already know that Frank Castle's a good man who's just doing the wrong thing, but for the right reasons. I also wanted to let everybody know that I'm not promoting murdering people or criminals or using violence as any means to overcome mental issues. I'm simply saying that in the context of the fictional Marvel comics, that I like this character, and I'm not saying I always agree with his actions, but I understand where he's coming from in his struggles. And also, if you're struggling with mental health, know that you're not alone and that everybody needs help, and it's okay. Don't be like the Punisher and address those issues and become a better person who loves themselves. Because at the end of the day, you deserve to love yourself. And if you're punishing yourself for mistakes that you've made in the past, you deserve to move on. You deserve to have a happy life. You deserve anything good that comes your way. And if you've made mistakes in the past, atone for them. Make up for them. Don't let the mistakes of your past define who you are and who your life will be. You deserve happiness. And if you need help, please seek it. We all need help. I need help. And that's why I go to therapy and I get help, because I know that it's healthy. It's healthy to get over those emotions, and it's healthy to get through that trauma and those mistakes that you can't forgive yourself. So take care of yourself. And thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed this type of video. I'm playing around with these video ideas, and this one is of characters that I think are misunderstood by a large group of people, and I feel like I want to explain them more and explain why I like them so much. And I plan on doing The Flash or Hawkeye next, and if there's characters that you would like me to make a video on, please let me know. Please let me know in the comments down below. The reason I'm doing Hawkeye is because somebody recommended Hawkeye to me, and I was like, that's a perfect idea. I love that. So thank you guys so much for all the support and love, because seriously, it's crazy how many views these are getting, and I'm actually just surprised that people love these videos. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you keep watching, and I hope you take care of yourself, because you know what? You deserve to be happy. Keep your head up, guys. Love ya. Bye.